But my mother, we'd always knew them quite well, and they talked to us. And
were there other people from France here in Butte?
oh yeah, there was quite a few women from France, and then when they left, my husband had a truck, and he toward the back end of his car, he had a Ford, and he made a truck out of it. Hank did. You remember Big Hank?
Right.
And he made a truck out of it, and he'd always get the women, and when sometimes they'd have a bird cage with a bird in it, or they'd have something to hang on to go down to back to Canada. But they'd all have children before they come here. You know, they were all had children, but they never brought them to the places they worked. They put them in school.
In Canada or in France?
In Canada and in France too, because they come in from France and with all their junk.
Did they send money back to the kids?
Well, I don't know. We didn't mingle too much with them, you know.
Well, so your maiden name was what?
Gay.
Your maiden name is Gay.
Gay.
And you married another French person.
Oh yeah.
French Canadian person.
He was a lone son too, Hank Desjordins. They only had the one boy, and they come in the same time we did. And Galen lives in the house that they built right up on 2nd Street, on Emma. So her and her husband and children live up there.
That's your daughter?
Yeah, that's Galen.
When did your husband's family come to Butte?
Oh, they all came together when they got here. The men come first, and then they sent for the family.
All from French Canada?
Yeah.
And did your husband's family or father work in the mines too?
My husband, well, he turned out to be work for the Montana Power, and he worked for Moore's Dry Dock in Oakland when the war was on. He went there and worked a year. And,
was this your husband?
Yeah, that was my husband.
What about your husband's father? What did he do?
He got electrocuted at the mine. He was walking down with where it's a bunch of cars, he said, and his hat hit the wire, and it killed him. And he died. And so she was a seamstress, and she used to make a suit, clothes, and they used to be up on granite here, and she'd take a measurement of your suit and make your suit for you, all the buttons and all the holes and all. She was a very good seamstress.
Were her kids young when her husband was killed?
Well, no, about 10 years old. Just the one boy. She had the one boy.
And how old was he when he started to work?
Well, when he was going to school, he was going to grade school, she'd leave him with the family, somebody there, and they sent him to school. And then he went to school, and they left there. He went to Gonzaga for a year, 2 years in Gonzaga, because he had an uncle that lived there. And so but he lived out of on the way to Gonzaga, and he stayed with him for quite a while. But that's just what we'd see, you know, with the uncle and that.
Well, when you were young and going up to the candy store up on Galena, did you ever see any police officers up there?
Oh yeah, we seen a lot. We used to go to a place, to this woman's place, and we knew her quite well, and she was a French woman. And we'd stay there and talk, and I was a little kid, and Mom would hold my hand, and they'd have quite a conversation. And here was the cop, the policeman and his helper sitting in the corner waiting for the lady to come out of the room so he could get half of the money that she just made. And I think Dugan was the sheriff, and Jerry Murphy. If Jerry Murphy was on the street and he was in the car and he seen a guy, he'd say, they'd stop the car and look at the guy, and he'd say, you better not be around here walking the streets. Next time I see you, I'll throw you in jail. Because he was a jail customer, I guess. And
well, in those early years, like when you were young, I think one of the sheriff's name was O'Rourke. Do you remember that?
Oh
name?
yeah, O'Rourke.
And then
Then Dugan, I knew Dugan very well.
Did you know Dugan?
Yes.
What was he like?
Oh, he wasn't a bad guy. He's dark and heavy. But he sat there and waited for his money too.
He did.
So he had a Cadillac. I don't know if he had a Cadillac or a Pierce Arrow. They each had a big car, and they both sat there and waited for the dough to,
Yeah.
the old girl to get her money, and then they'd get out and go to someplace else.
Did you remember Sheriff Tim Driscoll when the,
Driscoll, yes, I remember.
do you remember him down there
I
at all?
remember, yeah.
Or you were probably too young to remember Sheriff O'Rourke.
No, we didn't know them. We didn't run around with them too much, you know what I mean? We knew them.
Yeah.
And, but, well, we had a dog, and the dog was in the down in the shed on Silver Bow Street. We lived on Silver Bow Street for a while. And we took our dog and mated him with the sheriff's dog. And Jesus was a big thing. But he was a bugger to jump the window. If it was thunder or lightning, he'd go right through a window if he was near a window. And it wouldn't burn himself or hurt himself, but he'd break the window all to hell and get out. And my Hank, we used to raise dogs. Remember when they had the dog track here?
Right.
Well, had the dog track. We had Tan Face, and we used to run Tan Face there, a dog, in the races. And Steve Sullivan would say, "For Christ's sake, get that goddamn dog out of here." He fights a big, so it starts a fight all the time. Well, he always had to wear glasses on the side of his face, because if a dog would go to pass him, he'd fight him to beat hell. In the race, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, we go to the races every night out there on Harrison Avenue.
Would you bet on the dogs?
Oh yeah, we'd all bet on dogs. Yeah, one day I won $300 on the races. Everybody was asking me well, a man came through and he came in and had breakfast with us. He knocked on the door and he said, "Have you got anything to eat in the house?" We said, "Yeah, we're just making hotcakes." He said, "Well, can I have some?" I said, "Sure." I think he ate a dozen. And he had the hotcakes and had his breakfast. He said, "I'll get your money back." He said, I'm on the railroad track," he said, "riding the cars," he said, "but I'm working with the horses." So then the next time he came to the train, he came in with his letter, and he had all kinds of horses written down. So he said, "Don't bet on first, on a bet of second or show." So we did it. I won $300 that day. I gave him $50. And his breakfast. And then I said, "When you coming back?" He said, "I'm going to go with the horses. We're going out of town here. We're going someplace else." And he was going with someplace else. But I won the $300. Everybody was coming up and asking me what I was betting. I said, "Bet a show, because I'm sure you'll give me a show." But it wasn't cutting my size.
Well, look at that.
So I wouldn't let him bet her first, because it would cut my price down.
Since you were young,
Uh,
was a part of Butte's religion that people bet? I mean, Butte people always bet a lot. didn't they?
the racetrack was
On
always
anything.
full. The racetrack was always full. My dad used to walk over to the racetrack from on Harrison Avenue, and the racetrack was over the boulevard, way over there. And he'd walk over there all the time. But when we didn't, he'd take the horse and put him on a wagon or something. But we went all the time to the races. I ate more hamburgers at the races than the people that buy the hamburgers or something to eat, because I was always there at the races.
Were there a lot of slot machines too?
No, not too many slot machines there at the racetrack.
No, but I mean around Butte.
No, Hank worked for one of the sheriffs, I can't tell you who it was, and they took and made a raid on the slot machines and everything, and they took all the slot machines that Hank did and hauled them in his truck and went up and they burnt them. Then that was the year they were cutting down on the race them. And they burned all the racetrack. I said to Hank, I said, "Why don't you keep one of the damn things? We could bet in the house."